To our webinar on the state of AI search for a data-driven 2026. We've kind of been calling this a little bit of a sort of AI search wrapped, as it were. So we're going to get into lots of some of the details about some of the cool things that you can expect. If you're here, if you're in the place, then please drop us a note from where you're joining. It's great. It'd be great to hear from you. I can see that JN Mush Harbash has already joined the chat there, and it said thank you for your time and effort in advance. We appreciate you as well. Thank you for that. I can see we've got a few people joining. We'll just let a few people come along. I'm joining today from the UK, and I just came back from Google HQ in Zurich. Literally today, I just got back, and my guest, who we'll be introducing shortly, is Tiago Bianchi, and he is joining from Germany. Yes.
Yes, I'm from Hamburg, Germany. So I'm not sure if it's quite the same latitude. I'm bad at geography at this point, so
That's fine.
so it's from Hamburg, Germany.
Wonderful. Well, we've got lots of people in the chat. I can see someone from Toronto, someone from Vancouver, someone from Pennsylvania, Ecuador, the Bronx, Florida. Lots of lovely folks. So yeah, this is great. Wonderful. And Oceanside, California. I'm a big fan of Oceanside. So thank you so much for joining us. So today we are going to be talking about lots of things to sort of get you ready for 2026. As I said, it's a little bit like a Spotify wrapped sort of thing. I'm Crystal Carter. If you've come to our webinars before, then you'll know me. I am the head of AI search and SEO communications at Wix. I spend a lot of time thinking about AI search, talking about AI search, and helping our teams to do great there. And today I'm joined by Tiago Bianchi. Tiago, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do?
Hello, everyone. I'm Tiago Bianchi, and I come originally from Brazil. I am settled here in Germany for already 6 years, and I'm working currently as an industry expert at Statista. And I've been researching basically a whole set of internet sectors at this point. So I've been going through social media, online search, gaming, and the whole stack, and also with the focus on Latin America and Spain, and the last times Italy. But also my specialization has been on online search in the last times, and then we also started covering more of the developments with AI. So yeah, which brings us here today as well.
Yes, yes. And Tiago and I met at another event where we were talking about AI then as well. So I thought he'd be great to get along. And thank you to everybody who's joined in the chat. We've had more international folks, some folks from Scotland, some folks from Southern Indiana, and things like that. So thanks very much for joining us. Today we are going to talk about lots of stuff, and we are going to talk about how search has changed through 2025. It's been a very busy year for search. We are also going to talk about how users have responded to that kind of change, GEO and SEO evolution, what it means for your business in 2025. And we're also going to share a little bit of data on some research that we've done on AI optimization on Wix websites. So what makes a difference on Wix websites? According to research, we looked at thousands of websites, and we can share what we found. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about some of the search highlights. So from my side, from the Wix Studio side, we opened the AI Search Lab this year. If you haven't gone to the AI Search Lab, it's a really good resource. You'll find this data. You'll find lots of data from Tiago after this event as well, and lots of great insights from super smart people all about AI search, ChatGPT, showing in those sorts of things, and lots of great tools that you can use for that as well. And we also launched this year the AI visibility overview in the Wix tool set. So when you go into your CMS, you can see whether or not you're showing in AI responses, whether or not your website is being crawled for user queries, for search queries on ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude. And we've had some great feedback on it. I had someone who was servicing a client who got some great feedback on it recently as well. So we hope that you're enjoying it, and that's been really good. And we built all of these things in response to how wild everything has been across the search space. So one of the first things that happened, or one of the most significant things that happened, was AI overviews were introduced from Google globally, and a lot of people have had different responses to that. What are your feelings on AI overviews, Tiago?
I mean, I also have a report on AI and online traffic that I published this year as well. And the effect that we saw the most is actually how um, different this is going to mean for the business as well, because actually AI overviews would take a lot of traffic from, especially like from news websites and everything. And that created a huge fuss about what it means for SEO, what it means for discoverability, and also means for direct traffic as well. So while Google, for some part, argued that this gives a little more quality traffic for them, many people have been, and many companies have been complaining that this can actually mean a death sentence for their business. So this is a very polarizing one as well. And since it has been there, I mean, traffic for many websites has been at a not a stalemate, but at a very big risk at this point. So
Yeah, and I think
we already start with a big one here. So.
yes, yes. I think if you're not sure if you were affected by AI overviews, if you are in Google Search Console, you can have a look and you can date when, because they rolled them out in the US first. And if you have any other if you have audiences that are coming from any other region, you can see the change in the traffic as they introduce AI overviews. So you can check that in your Google Search Console. And if you see that you start seeing a difference as AI overviews are introduced, then you may very well have been impacted by AI overviews. So yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll see how the AI overviews play out in the next year.
Yeah, exactly. It was so also on that, it was released, I think, in the US in May 24, and you can also see it for other countries also in from August 24 on. So there's also like your starting point at this.
We've got a question that says, any stats on how much traffic has decreased for most companies so that we can compare? And I think we actually have that data. Let me just have a look and see if it's on the article. So okay. So in terms of overall traffic decrease, I don't have that, but I do have. We're just gonna jump into it, guys. That's what we're gonna do. Hang on a
Yeah.
second, just a moment. I'm just gonna share the article that we have from Tiago.
Yes. Is it the AI and online traffic that you have there?
I've got so what I have is the zero click one from the AI
Yeah.
overviews. So
Yeah.
in this
Yeah, exactly that one.
So this is the article. So after the and we can actually can share this in the chat as well. So I'll share this in the chat. Um, so this is the article, and essentially we have a section on AI overviews. And somebody said, "What are AI overviews?" If you go to Google and you say, I don't know, how do you tie a shoe? And it gives you an answer, like it starts generating an answer, and it's got a few links in it, and then a few things on the side. That's an AI overview, and it will say on it that it's an AI overview, and you normally expand it, and it will give you more information. But essentially, what it does is a lot of people are saying that it's causing zero clicks. So do you want to expand on what your research has shown with that, Tiago?
Yes, this was one study from the Pew Research Center that was published, and it had a lot of buzz after on. And this is basically 1% of people clicking on a link in the AI summary shows that it's a discussion that Google was sort of like stealing traffic because Google was feeding upon the content of especially news websites and other informations or references like Wikipedia, for example, and just keeping it there and then like diverting or just properly blocking traffic. And the research showed that only 1% of the users actually clicked on the link that appeared there as well. So someone said about the speaker. Yes. So for more insights about this, I also published our study on AI and online traffic on the chat as well. The statistics is included in there as well. But yeah, it's also the issue of online traffic and the effect of AI. We can see by a growth in the traffic diverted from AI tools, but it's also been a challenge itself to measure it. Like, I mean, for example, how are we going to count conversions? How are we going to count sessions or visualizations? Is the point being in the tools only? How is the website going to look? So we're going to go more into this. I'm not going to keep everyone in this here, but this is one of very important statistics that we have on our report.
Yes. So definitely worth checking that out. So I'm going to go back to that one.
Yes.
Another one was ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude all released AI browsers. These are agentic browsers, and and it's essentially they're able to collect their own data. It's a little bit of a challenge to Google, and the rollout of that has been interesting. But one of the things that I've noticed, I've been tracking, how people are adopting these tools, and every time they add a new feature, every time they say, "Oh, we've got a new browser" or something, you start to see more people joining. I can see you nodding, Tiago. Have you seen that trend as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm also very interested in this data as well because it's just a very like recent release, but it's just a very leap of how AI sort of is like already pointing so hard at being agentic instead of just being like a search solution as well. So we are going to talk about this later, but search in the future might not just mean like appearing or mentioned, but having to be present in so many places. So this is just one example of how we're going to start seeing this.
Yes. And then another one, and this is kind of along similar lines, basically AI everywhere. Gemini added AI into their Google Fit watches and to their Pixel phones, and since they've done that, they've seen a really big jump in the number of people who are using AI as well. So that's something that's very interesting as well. The other one was that they've added in, so OpenAI released Sora, which is a video generating tool, and Gemini also released Veo, which is a video generating tool. This has been very interesting across social media in terms of how people perceive AI and how people perceive reality. Have you seen anything interesting on this, Tiago?
Yes, the whole Sora as a platform itself is a case by its own. So, I think the thing that actually worries me about the most is actually how doubtful we are about if a video is truth or not, because it's just so well done and so scarily well done that the bridge between reality and properly fake, actually, like, so let's call it what it is, not even fake news, it's just fake in general, has never been smaller. So we are seeing this with a lot of concern here actually as well.
Very, very interesting. And I think it goes to a trust point, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
And let's see. Okay, so then we had ChatGPT and Gemini have also announced sort of agentic commerce rollouts. This is something that Wix is a part of. So Wix has been involved with Stripe and with PayPal, looking at sort of agentic commerce. So that's something that you should see rolling out in 2026. We'll talk about that in our 2026 webinar. But this is something that we found really, really interesting. I'm certainly starting to see a lot of momentum for agentic implementation across the web, and you're nodding as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
I will be nodding as well because I can see that we agree with a lot of things that have been going on. So this is not an interruption. It's just me like, yep, that's it.
yeah, true. And then the other one that's also released is deep research and query fan out. So this changes the way that the LLMs think about or that they access information. So previously you had a dense transformer model, which was basically like if you had a bag and you were trying to find your socks or your keys in your bag and you had everything in your bag in one compartment, then it would take you ages to find your keys or something. And when you have the sort of deep research query fan out sort of area, they kind of put things into compartments. So they'll have, something that has like, I don't know, your toothbrush area, you'll have something that has your socks, you'll have something that has, I don't know, your suntan lotion or whatever. And so they'll put everything into compartments and then they can just go to the compartment that they need. And that they're not using compartments, they're using neural networks. But with the deep research and with the query fan out, they're essentially accessing neural networks in a different way from the way that we're doing before. And this has impacts for websites, but I think it's really fascinating as a development. Cool. Okay, so we'll move on to the next section. So we're gonna get into some fun stuff, because this is my idea of fun. So we're gonna talk about the search evolution in 2025, and this gets into the article from Tiago. Yes, the presentation will be posted, and we also have the article. I should pin that. But yes, we have an article that gets all into all of this. So that is the card for the article. I'll post you put the link to the article up again. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about some of the state of AI search. So, with this one, we're going to be sharing a lot of data from Statista. And Tiago, are you able to share how you get your data for this kind of information?
Yes, so much of this information we also get through our partnerships and from other third-party sources. So we are keeping an eye on all of the other trends. We also have some partnership with some like names in the SEO industry as well. So like, I mean, we are receiving some of this like data, some more updated, some more. Also, we generate some of them when we're talking about AI and market insights and consumer insights. So for example, surveys on AI usage and for example, markets and everything. So we have like a pretty like broad range and everything. So I mean, we are a global data business intelligence platform. Our goal is to empower people with data. So we have like a huge range of this. Some of our reports on the topic include just AI, artificial intelligence as a general, but also like broken down by market. As you can see here, the AI-powered online search is the one that we're talking about the most today, but we also talk about other search trends, for example, social search, general online consumer online search behaviors as well. So we have a huge like scope of data to bring on to the table as well. So yes, connect to us, talk to us. It's always welcome to have a chat, and it's always, as I was selling to Crystal as well before, it's just really nice to be able to exchange this information, because I think this is the only way that we can go through this neck-breaking speed changes that we are seeing right now. So yeah, I just really appreciate also like to be able to bring some of these insights for everyone.
Yeah, I love it. I'm super excited. So we're going to get into it now. Okay, so first we're going to talk about where users are searching today. So I think people who've been working in marketing for a little while know that people, when they find information, they go to Google. But now there's so many more players. So there's Claude, there's ChatGPT, there's Perplexity, there's Gemini. There's Copilot, which is down on the left. That little whale there is DeepSeek, which I'll bring up a little I'll bring up a little bit later as well. And then Grok is one you might have heard from as well, which is the one that's associated with Twitter. And essentially, like, search has become a little bit more diverse. So this is when you put all of the sort of top LLMs together, they and compared to all of the searches that are made on, or all of the traffic that goes to Google, we see that the share of LLM search is about 8.5%. That might not seem that much, but the thing that's really interesting is that at the beginning of the year, it was much smaller. So we're starting to see growth going there as well. And this is something y'all are watching as well as Statista.
Yes, I mean, from what we're seeing, like if you compare this to already the Google's dominance in traditional search, I mean, this pretty much just mirrors the past trends as well that Google had to other traditional search engines. But this is, for example, just showing still how Google basically dominates it, but also just how fast this is growing for a market that has been dominated for like more than 2 or almost 3 decades as well. So it like you cannot ignore these changes. It's a lot. And with all LLM search, this is just a trend that is just starting. People are just starting to discover. Like, I mean, people from different ages might do it differently as well, but it's one of the fastest adoptions that we have ever seen for any technology as well. And we might be talking about not only LLMs, but we might also talking about Sora's app, for example, which has been just I think it surpassed ChatGPT, if I'm not mistaken, with the number of downloads on the first day already.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's huge. I mean, for the adoption, like I mean, in a global adoption for these technologies, it's something that we have never seen before. And it's just, I mean, we might consider, yes, it's just 8.5%, but it has been exponentially growing. It's not something that we can ignore anymore. So that's why it's so important that we bring this insight here.
Yes, definitely. And this I think is interesting as well. So when we think about citation, so in terms of when you go to ChatGPT or to Gemini or whichever, what will happen is that you'll get, like, if I say, how do I I don't know, how do I bake a cake, for instance,
Yeah.
then it may very well link to a recipe on like epicurious.com or delicious.com or something like that, delish.com. That if there's a link there, that's a citation.
Yeah.
And if it's just a mention, if it just says Delish has some good recipes and doesn't have a link, then that's a mention. So here we're talking about citations, so actual links to actual websites, in versus in Google versus AI. And what have you found in that research?
I mean, this research was conducted in June 22. This is actually from SEMrush, and coincidentally, actually, ChatGPT had one of the smallest correlations to Google's top 10 search engine to the SERPs, as we saw there. But from a domain overlap, we saw similarity between the answers that were given in AI citations of 44%, and for URLs in 27%. So just how different it was behaving. I'm quite sure that this might have balanced or have changed also, like in the past as well, especially when we saw even Google itself, I mean, with a partnership with Reddit as well, and just how it changes. But I would say this data can be, we are trying to find some more updated data on this one, but this was the measurement for middle of this year. So it's actually a really interesting one to see how different AI citations in Google itself differ from Google's and search results page.
And I think that this is something that comes to bear when people say, oh, you can just do SEO and you'll get good results on AI. And I'm not saying don't do SEO. I'm not saying don't do that. But I think that if we're seeing that for the answers that you're not seeing the same URLs, you're not seeing the same domains showing in the answers, then it means that there's also something else that to be thinking about as well. So then let's think about like the top users by platform. So this is for each of these, I've gone through the sort of top platforms with similar update data, the top 5 for whatever it is. And so for this one, it's no surprise in terms of AI. If we look at the average monthly users, ChatGPT is the king, and the next the next closest to them, ChatGPT is pulling in almost 3 or 4 times more than them. So the next is Gemini. The one after that is DeepSeek. DeepSeek is one that a lot of people don't have on their radar, but DeepSeek is an LLM that came out of China, and it started at the beginning of January. And if you look at global traffic to DeepSeek, they get a lot of traffic. And at the beginning of the year, they were outpacing Gemini. I think it's leveled out now, but for a while they were bigger than Gemini, and I think that's important to take into account. So yeah, this I think is interesting. So chat in terms of monthly unique users, ChatGPT is top, then Gemini, then DeepSeek, then Perplexity, then Grok, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Grok, all things considered, with the whole platform that acts from or how we call it, Twitter as well, with how it is. I mean, it's still a very notable audience as well, but also showing that it has an excellent model as well for like compressing data, and not so much on accuracy as well, but still like figuring like a bit above of like other options, other tools that didn't have like a platform for itself before, like Perplexity and everything. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think the other thing is with all of these things, they have training data. So the advantage that Google has or Gemini has, is that it has Google's wealth of data and information to draw from their answers. If Grok has Twitter, they've got a lot of data as well, because Twitter's been around for so long. So that's something that will help them to sort of move forward with that. So it's interesting. Then the other one, what we see in global visits, again, we see a similar sort of picture. So here we see ChatGPT pulling, far outpacing some of the global visits, and then we see Gemini coming up after that, then DeepSeek, then Grok, then Perplexity as well. One of the things I think is interesting is that there's a lot of talk about Claude and Anthropic. And Claude and Anthropic, they do fine, but they don't actually very often show up in the top for these tools. So I think it's important to don't just go by the names that you hear most frequently, because Grok, for instance, seems to have quite the following, and I don't think people talk about it as much as they do Claude. Claude is doing some fantastic work in terms of like R&D, like they're really champions of the MCP and all of that, but Grok in terms of users is getting a lot of traction. Engagement. So this I thought was interesting. So in terms of page views, Gemini actually comes out top, and Perplexity and ChatGPT were tied here. This I think is interesting because I think this goes back to why Gemini being part of an infrastructure. So Gemini is part of the Google workspace. I use Gemini a lot because we have Google Workspace, and so it's included in my setup. And so I think that's probably one of the reasons why they're pulling slightly ahead of Perplexity and ChatGPT in terms of visits. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this.
I mean, as you said, and as we're going to see even more with Gemini's Model 3, it's much more embedded on Google's functionality, so to say. So it's also not an alien experience for people using it, because the difference between what ChatGPT brought was this more sort of like conversational thing, and Google sort of like kept this more functionality of its search engine as well, sort of like bringing the results as well. So it also makes sense that there's like more interaction into this direction that they also presented there. But it also surprises me that Perplexity and ChatGPT are also like sort of like tied itself. But you can also see that it's not like a huge difference between like the three first there as well. So for example, between Grok and also DeepSeek as well, like, I mean, there's like a much bigger difference when we're talking about 4.03 and 3.97. Switcher like covers also ask where's Copilot there, so we didn't make in the first thing here. So it's so it's also
Yeah.
an interesting thing.
So I pulled out the top five. So Copilot was just below the top five. I
Yeah.
did check them, but they were below the top five. And so yeah, I think it's interesting. And I think Copilot is interesting because they're really deep and they've got two different kinds. There's like a Copilot app, which I actually have, and then there's also the 365 Copilot. So they've kind of split their traffic in terms of that. So it's I think they're trickier to quantify than some of the other ones. And then outgoing traffic. So this is also very interesting, and this I find aligns with the anecdotal things that I've seen. So ChatGPT like seems to give out links like not tons, but fairly consistently. Gemini will very often not give out a link. I
Yeah.
find in my experience.
Exactly. I mean, just to answer a question, this is an example and goes with the questions from Matt Leopold there, because he had a question of does domain versus URL means get to the right website or not? And this is one example because it's mentioning actually the domain, and the other one is mentioning the URL for a more precise example. So I think you just mentioned a symptom of what is happening at this point.
Yeah, so essentially, you can see that ChatGPT is sending, way, way, way more referrals than Gemini, and then Perplexity actually is near, and Perplexity is much smaller than Gemini. In terms of visits, in terms of users, Perplexity is much smaller than Gemini, but they're not that far off in terms of the referrals because Perplexity gives a link for every single website. It's very often that I find that the people who are tracking AI will actually see that they get a lot of traffic from Perplexity, and that's because Perplexity gives out traffic regularly. And I think that people who use Perplexity, and I use Perplexity a lot, people who use Perplexity expect to get a link and they expect to be able to click through to it, and that's sort of one of the reasons why they choose it, which I
Yeah.
think is interesting.
And we also use Perplexity here as well at Statista. And I think also one of the differences, how do you employ these tools if you think about it? Because also Perplexity has this whole like proper focus on research and search as well. While, for example, ChatGPT can be a little more like conversational. Gemini, we just discussed about it, but also you can see just how low Grok goes into this. It also, let's be honest, it also goes here with the direction of how much traffic they receive. So like, I mean, we can see 4.1 billion referrals from referrals from ChatGPT. So we're talking about like a huge amount of traffic and users as well. So like, I mean, also for where it refers to. But again, as you said, Perplexity ranking so high, and also like just alone Gemini just shows how much they actually quote.
Definitely. I think they punch above their weight. So some of the takeaways from this, from all of this information, because I'm sure that people are looking at this and going, "Cool, what do I do with that?" And I think that one of the top takeaways from this is that information discovery is becoming much more diverse. Certainly, when I started as a baby marketer, Google was the main game in town, and don't get me wrong, it's still very, very important, but there's lots of players on the board now, so that's certainly something to consider. And also, AI is growing, but it hasn't overtaken Google search just yet. So as we said, if you compare the two, around 85% of sorry, it was 8.5% of visits were going to AI versus like 91.5% were going to Google. So it hasn't fully overtaken. But your 2026 marketing strategy should account for tasks and strategies and tactics that will support your SEO and your GEO. Very often they will be complementary activities, so it's worth thinking about that. And then also, because there were so many surprises, I think in the links that are going out and how things are performing there, it's worth paying attention to the range of platforms. Did you have any additional ones you'd like to add in, Tiago?
No, for now, I think we are approaching it
Oh gosh, you
very
gotta
like
move. You gotta
broadly,
go over.
but on point as well. So
Okay. All right, so let's talk about where the AI traffic is going, and this is your data that you've shared from your fantastic report. Are you able to share a little bit more on this?
yes, so we are also seeing much. So this is the main referred domains and with categories. So where they are going, and we can see that they are the referrals from these top domains were very authoritative, educational, and transactional content. But we also see a lot of reference to domains that have already a high trust in the online landscape as well. So we also see, for example, Wikipedia in second. So still being a way for where people look for information. If you go for the next slide as well, I think we also have a clearer vision of this because we're talking about news, academic, and just after e-commerce. So I mean, news and academic also being able to be mentioned way before something that is very direct, something that has a very like clear intent, which is having from Amazon, for example, so referring to Amazon. And here we can see that like AI does try to fetch some of the most recent and some of the more like accurate information that we see as also for these references. So I think it's an interesting balance to see there was like with the top domain categories and also the domains that we see there. So I think it's a nice data to be kept on your pocket as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important, and it goes to the training data because they won't have training data information on brand new news. So it makes sense that they would send information to news. Very interesting. Oh, sorry. So, okay. So, actionables from the AI refers information. I think it's important to remember not to just build on your own domain. So you saw there was a mix of domains there that we were talking about. Diversify the kinds of websites that mention your brand. You maybe haven't been investing in getting your brand mentioned on some sort of encyclopedic things, but maybe you should consider that. Maybe you should think about and also I think consider investing in PR. And this might seem like a big ask for smaller businesses, but PR can be something as much as like sponsoring a little league team, and PR can be sponsoring the local marathon. It can also be sending the local newspaper information about your grand opening, that sort of thing. There's lots of ways where you can do PR at different levels, so think about that and include that in your activity for 2026.
Exactly, because just coming back to that, it's also thinking, I mean, we talk about online presence a lot and we see SEO as like sort of the backbone of it. But if you consider just how diverse and just from how many sources AI is pulling this, you sort of like also thinking, okay, how, for example, am I going to be mentioned on a review website, for example, because that is also something that is going to be pushed. And for example, just about like the history of the company, for example, like I mean, you might not worry about like something like you might want to forget about a specific incident that happened in 2011, so to say, but let's say it appears on Wikipedia. So it's also going to count on this because this is going to be sort of like the story of the brand or the product that you're like having there. So we're going to see here again, it's important to invest in in a more diverse portfolio than possible, but just so how important it is to not think of only one way, but how it looks online as well, how you look online, so to say.
Yes, your whole footprint. So let's think about how people use AI. This data I thought was really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about this data?
So yes, this data, just let me check the source. So this is from Activated. It was like a huge report that they produced, also like talking a lot about topics on AI and search. It's a report with different things, but the section was really interesting because this is the main intent of AI search in the United States. And 68% of Americans wanted to learn about a new topic when they were using AI search. So think about it, when you just go to ChatGPT or when you go to Gemini and when you want to know like a fact, a historical fact about something, or you want to know if a company is trustful, this is people what want to know. It's like, so they will want to be informed first about things and then like go into discovery. So this points to this chat discovery thing that we are seeing today as well. Just right after, we are seeing also retrieving a fact, for example, so checking for historical accuracy, checking for, again, this is the importance of trust as well. So we want facts to be correct and straight when we use AI tools as well. And you can see here by, it's the second most important, but it goes online with learning a new topic. And then only 32% of people, only 32% of people want to find a specific website. But this also shows the importance of being mentioned, because if only 32% have this direct intent of looking for a website, it also just shows how the game has changed, because you're not just going on Google anymore to type, I don't know, the specific address or something, and then like be directed to a website because you're already known in there. But you also want to be discovered by the people who just want to find a website. So how are you going to appear on an AI search? And I think this is why this statistic is very important as well.
Yeah, and I think it goes to like which part of the funnel you need to be thinking about, and which part of the funnel you might expect to see, maybe less traffic from Google. So, for instance, if a lot of people are going to ChatGPT or something to get information about a topic, they might not be going to Google for that. But if you see that lots of people are not using ChatGPT to find a website, they're probably going to Google to find that, because people are still looking to find websites. So I think it's really really interesting. And yeah, we'll get into more of that later. So this one is great as well. I don't know if I can zoom. Let me see. Oh no. Oh, it's fine. It doesn't look like I can. Can you tell us a little bit more about this one?
So yeah, this was a very recent consumer insights poll. I think it's from our Pulse version from it, which is how Americans want AI to use AI. Actually, what Americans expect from AI in the near future. And we can, again, see the trend for the agentic AI, because 32%, and it was the most answered question, the most answered characteristic is to act as a personal assistant. So people want to use AI and AI search and all of the AI tools to make their lives easier. And they want this to have straight up answers, to find information easily as well. And they also want this integration of AI into different ecosystems as well. So for you to be able to reach a specific goal, specific activity, especially when you consider working purpose, but we're talking more about end users here. So we also see automate everyday tasks, help with work or business tasks as well, but again, still focus on like a more end user in general. And then we also see the teaching or tutoring as like more of the search discovery situations that we would expect from a traditional search engine as well. So it's very interesting that this is on top, because this also shows a bit of like how this AI script is sort of like changing. So we're not talking about just search, but we are talking about AI acting as your helper, acting as your sort of like go-to platform. And then again, with so many AI not AI browsers also coming on, we can see that this trend is coming pretty fast. Like, I mean, again, it's surprising that like this is like happening so quick about it, and how much Americans already expect from this. Because when AI search came about, it was not so much of a fast expectations of how we should do it, or what they would expect of, or what is it going to be with AI search? And nowadays, people are already talking with AI as being an assistant. So it's a pretty important development, this one.
Yeah, I think so, and I think as they become more agentic and more agentive, I think you'll see more of those expectations. That you just expect it to do stuff for you.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting, especially as we're talking about like agentic commerce coming about in the next little while. The generational split here.
Yeah, exactly. Because you only see like little more than 10% of like older generations in there. You would expect like, I mean, the younger the generation is to be a little more open to AI shopper, but we are also talking about the moment of life of people where they are buying and where they have the power to do so. So with 30% of millennials being more enthusiastic about AI shoppers, about AI shopping, sorry, Yeah, it's I also found this one like really interesting. Like, I mean, when we were like looking for the data, because I would expect like, oh yeah, younger generations would know when to use it and would be like the first ones. But there's also the thing of the moment. But this also tells us something important about how do we have to think our strategies and who to reach. Because yes, you have to think generationally as well when you're optimizing, and you have to think who are you going to reach as well. Because if baby boomers or Gen X are not so into like AI shopping, then what's the point of investing there? And also, how am I going to get to them? And then again, if you're more tech savvy, or if you're a little more like willing to experiment things, you will obviously be a little more open to this, but you will also be a little more open to, for example, talk with the chat and like have like more of like a discovery thing, like a more interactive experience. And this is not the case for older generations, because they want something that is straight up, something that they understand, and something that just can like help them. So this also talks about how the agents have to understand who they're talking to and who are they serving to as well. And then this also talks to us how we have to think it differently.
Yeah, I think speaking as a millennial, I think also like I'm tired. So like if I can have an AI assistant to help me buy my groceries or whatever it is, then that's great. Um, so one of the other ones, this was a set that I found in SimilarWeb, which I thought was really interesting, was that there's a clear gender split as well in AI. So on average, 59% of AI users were men. And the biggest gender difference was in Grok. In Grok, only 34% of Grok's users are female. ChatGPT is the most popular platform within amongst women, with the audience being a 46% female. So this is very interesting regarding that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just have a comment on this because we also published a study in partnership with SEMrush some time ago, and we could see back then when we were talking about this, like back then it was early adoption, so it feels like a long time ago, but it's not that far away. But men have been more open or more like willing to test AI in general. We don't have like enough data on this at this point, but it starts from there. But we could also like already see a change into like sort of like a more balance into this. So I think the fact that Grok like has its whole character is a different story. But I mean, we can see a little like this situation getting a little more like balance into in terms of like gender overall in AI, not by specific platforms. It's hard to get into specific web platforms at this point.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to see how it evolves. Like what if we check this next year, what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so we already talked a little bit about the AI overview, so I'm going to move ahead of that if I can, just for the sake of time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about feelings, right? So how do people feel about AI? So for instance, like do users trust AI? And in the report that you shared about trust, we had some interesting discussion.
Yes. Yeah, we've also managed to fetch this statistic as well, because it talks about this overall AI search usage, or how like people trust about it. And 24% of people in the US actually compare the results that they get from AI tools in Google. So yeah, I mean, we can obviously like the whole release of Gemini, like of Gemini that was first Bard, and then Gemini was like a bit like clunky. We also see a lot of mistakes, a lot of hallucinations. So although adoption is growing a lot, it's very hard actually like to be able to trust like all of the information that we are presented there, because it's not just about like linking or everything, but it's about the information that is presented there. I published actually a LinkedIn post today about it. So we're talking about like, I mean, accuracy for like news and everything. So it was also one of the most mentioned categories there that we have from AI tools as well. But it just talks so much about why is it hard to trust a model, that it's a developing technology, and what this implies for people information. So there's a little more data on our article about this. There was a question if the article was going to be available. So yes, it's going to be available. You can check it on after the webinar. But yeah, it's the trust about AI is something that we have been discussing so much and extensively. And I think the 17% of people who check the source site in the AI summaries as well also talks about a little more about the engagement of this, but showing that people compare results, but a lesser amount of people give themselves the work to go check the sources mentioned in the AI summaries. And if you think about that, sometimes it's just the domain that is mentioned, or that it's not like the full information that is there, or there's like a little tweak in the hallucination of it. It's hard to trust. Let's be honest. Like, I mean, it's, with the amount of like mistakes that we have been seeing, it's very. I'm not surprised with this information, but I'm surprised that it's like a 1 out of 4 people doing this.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. There's also some discussion around referrals versus traffic, and I've just asked the question because there are a couple of people mentioned it, whether or not they were interested in like in sort of referrals per visit. If that's the case, let me know. I can pull that data. We can add it to the article later on. Okay. So that this is interesting as well. So going into the trust a little bit more. This was something that I thought was very interesting in terms of the age difference with regards to trust. What were your thoughts on this?
So, I mean, in general, over half of the people don't trust AI to make unbiased decisions. And let's be honest, like, I mean, for technology that is so, like, again, adoption and usage will not necessarily mean trust for this. So, of course, it is useful. Of course, it's fun to play with. Of course, it's nice to discover and everything. But I actually find it kind of healthy that people don't take it everything like without a pinch of salt, like, I mean, for everything that AI says. We are all aware about this. We are aware of like the problems that it brings. So the fact that 54% of people of U.S. American, like of adults in the U.S. don't trust this, it's also like very telling. But the interesting that this brings, it's interesting thing about it is also that the older people get, the less they trust about it. And while 35% of people between 18 and 29 years old actually lack trust of it. So there's like a huge imbalance of who trusts more, and also about usage, let's be honest, because if they don't understand, they don't trust as much. And maybe who's younger and is a little more engaged in this technology can also, like maybe argue for the fact that, yeah, it was not 100% correct, but, we can like go and check this out later on. So yeah, I find this like age gap between things, I mean, also like really interesting because it just shows how much usage and how trust is going to determine where it's worth to invest on it as well.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Okay, so key takeaways from the audience preferences and trust and everything. So think generationally when you're thinking about your AI search optimization. You might be talking to a younger crowd, and if you were going to prioritize something, maybe prioritize something that appeals to a younger or millennial crowd. And then you have younger users are much more prone to interact with and trust AI search, which is interesting. And also, marketers need to accept that one strategy will not apply to everyone.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. So let's talk about how it's changing the business landscape a little bit. This is very interesting. So this is based on search volume. So if you look, the bottom one is 2024, the top one is 2025, and basically what we did is this is a graphic illustration of if you take all of the search quantities and what people are searching for. And search engine optimization is still something that people are searching for as a lot. But you'll see that if we think about the total, the amount that people are searching for generative engine optimization and for AI search has becoming much more has become much more in the last year. So in terms of search volume, if you compare compare November 2024 to November 2025, we've got huge year-on-year growth, 700%. We've got search engine optimization has grown by 6%. And I know it's a much smaller number, so you get the bigger growth for a smaller number. But it is interesting to see that it's growing at a steady pace, and they're all sort of growing at that pace. So I think that that's really interesting. I get a lot of SEO professionals who maybe don't like the term GEO, and I can potentially see that. But one of the things that I think is interesting is that users are using this phrase. So that's really interesting. Along those same lines, We're starting to see that GEO is emerging as a specialization. So there's tons of these, Facebook groups, or sorry, LinkedIn groups that are talking about this. This is one that has 169,000, and they're adding in GEO as part of their SEO elements. The other thing that I found really interesting on LinkedIn was that over 10,000 people have GEO and SEO in their LinkedIn job title. And this is 10,000 dots that we put here to illustrate that. So there's lots of people arguing about what to call it and things, but lots of people are just getting involved. So if you've been on the fence about whether or not you should just get involved, lots of people already are. So take that into, or sorry, lots of people already are. So take that into consideration. Um, so that's what's thinking about as well. So recommendations for the growth of GEO as a specialism: speak in the terminology that your clients recognize. So clients are searching for this term actively. And so it can be useful to engage with them on that. Manage client expectations. Again, we've talked about how Google is still doing, getting lots of traffic. Whether that comes to your website is another thing, but they're still getting lots of traffic. So manage the client expectations in terms of your GEO optimizations, and also embrace, the renewed interest in earned visibility. So I know there's a lot of SEOs who are getting C-suite time in the C-suite now that they never did before, and I think that it's worth looking at that. And now, before we wrap up, we're just going to get into what drives AI visibility on Wix sites. So, the Wix team analyzed 253,000 Wix sites between January 2024 and September 2025 to find out the top factors that help with visibility for AI search. There seemed to be a correlation between good SEO hygiene, like longer titles, meta descriptions, etc., and AI search visibility. And what we found was that compared to other websites, high AI performers had 60% longer meta titles, which is interesting. They had a 57%, 60% longer meta descriptions, 57% longer meta titles, and 7% higher Wix SEO setup checklist completion rates. Now, we say this is a correlation because it may very well be that people who are doing these tasks are more likely to be doing other marketing as well, which will help with their overall AI visibility. But from some of the things we can measure, this is something that seems to be an indicator. So that's something that's interesting. And that we found that looking across, there's 253,000 sites, we found that ChatGPT was driving most of the traffic. For that, we found that still as September 2025, the average site was getting a small amount of traffic from LLMs. And then we found that there's been a 139 times increase in LLM visits between January 2024 and September 2025, and 168 times increase in AI-driven traffic between January 2024 and September 2025. And I have someone that says Wix wants us to keep the characters at 175. Okay, so on that one, someone's asked about the character count that we have on Wix. So we have recommendations in terms of character count, and when you're adding in your meta descriptions or your title tags, we have a character recommendation. But if you want to know more about this particular study, we have the full study on the AI Search Lab. I'm just posting the link in the chat now, and it gets into exactly how many characters it was, and that sort of detail as well. So just by longer, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were like 400 character meta descriptions. It just means that they were longer than the average one, which might have been shorter. Okay, so let's get to the next question. Okay, so yes, traffic increased significantly from AI traffic to Wix websites increased significantly, 168 times between January 2024, and September 2025. Sorry, and this is what that looks like. And we can see that that's moving through. So that's going through and has moved up significantly. You see an uptick there. LLM traffic increased significantly as well, and you can see that as well. And this is our optimization checklist based on some of the information. So, as I said, just because we said longer doesn't mean that they have to be really really long. The recommendations that we've seen is that meta titles between 60 and 70 characters seemed to correlate with folks doing well on AI search. Meta descriptions that were between 140 characters and 160 characters seemed to do well as well. Folks that had alt text on their images where their content contained sections and lists with clear subheadings, which that makes sense in terms of the way the AI performs. They like chunky content. They like content that's broken up and has good headers and things. Folks who were publishing blogs consistently also seem to perform better on AI. Pages that were current, frequently updated, and accurate also seem to do well. And content that reflected a niche topic. So niche websites performed really well in this as well.
I literally took a photo of this right now so I can keep it also for my checklist. This is really good. I mean, I have it later, so I already got the photo. So that's, yeah, but that's a really good one.
Wonderful. So yes, I shared the link to that article, and that article is also live on the AI Search Lab as well. And with that, if there's any other burning questions, I think we've got just a couple of minutes left. I'm going to see if I can take this off the screen. Can I remove this? Oh, I'm going to stop sharing. I'll stop sharing. Then it will do it. Let me see. Okay, there we are. Great checklist. Thank you, Matt. We spent some time on the checklist. Thank you very much for that. So there was somebody who asked a question. So someone said, I'm just going to show this on screen. Let's see how big it is. It's huge. Okay, what are the implications of AI search on blogs? This is traditionally has been a way to increase SEO. I have seen a rise in views that seems to be due to AI searches. Okay, so this is interesting. Tiago, do you have any things you'd like to add on this particular point?
I mean, it's complicated because again, we see again how complicated like counting, like I mean, like reading traffic currently is, and how much does it like improve. So I mean, honestly, if you also have this information, I would also really love to read it because we see that yes, we have a lot of like traffic being sent to like news and everything, but at the same time, they always refer to traffic never being so low, never being like so negative about things. So I think one of the biggest challenges, and I also mentioned this in my AI and online traffic report, is that how do you measure it? I mean, how are we going to like keep this like metrics, because we're talking like about different system, about like a different like landscape as well. And how are we going to like establish the same metrics for who's like going to read it? Sorry, for example, like blogs and everything. So is you might be mentioned by a by ChatGPT or by Gemini, for example, for something that you put in there. But what is the actual guarantee, for example, that Gemini is, for example, linking to your blog as well? And how is this going to like talk about how much traffic it grow as well? So honestly, I've been seeing data from the past that has shown that it has reduced a lot. Some of them that has improved a bit. There is also data showing that it can improve for smaller businesses, but for bigger businesses, it's complicated, as we see as well. So there is a lot of like different things that we go on, and the best thing that we can do right now is keep on like researching. So I think it was just let me go for the person's name is Lundy and Lundy Inc. Okay, I hope I mentioned it right. She also said that we covered it, and I think it was your part that you covered it, but I would also be interested to exchange this information as well.
Yeah, I think in terms of blogs, I think to say a blog is it's kind of like to say like is a car good? Like there's lots of different kinds of cars, like there's
Yeah.
cars that, do specific things and there's cars that don't work. And there's all that sort of stuff. So I think that with your blog, I think we talked about a few like some of the content that AI privileges. They like timely stuff, so they like news, they like news information. So if your blog is about like timely new information, then it may very well help you with what you're doing. If it's about general information that the LLMs already know, that's already in their training data, then it may not necessarily drive traffic. What it could potentially do is to help to make sure that your domain has a good amount of information on it, and it might help the LLMs to understand more about the relationships to that your domain has with the topics you covered. So we talked about niche topics. The thing about a niche topic, like if let's say it was beekeeping, let's say I was doing like beekeeping in Florida, that's super niche, right? And there's going to be considerations for beekeeping in Florida. And if that's all I ever talk about on my blog, then they know that if there's a question about beekeeping in Florida, that my blog is a good place to go to. And so if you're writing blogs, you might not get traffic all the time, but it helps them to understand that this is a website that knows lots about that topic. So I think about what your expectations are from the blog. And when you're doing that, you should also think about how much you want to put into it. If it's going to take you 8 to 10 business days to make that blog, but you're not expecting to get very much traffic out of it, that might not be, a good investment for you. But if it's a case that, it might get you some traffic, it might get you some social traffic, and it might do like that sort of thing, and you're planning to sort of spread it around, then it might be good. Or if it's a case that you can create it really quickly, using different tools, then yeah, go for it. So I think that it depends.
It
To give an
depends.
SEO answer, it depends.
Yeah, it depends also. Like, I mean, I think it also goes into that line is also like knowing your audience at this point. I mean, like it's a new thing. I mean, obviously, but I mean, your audience will also like if you want to be mentioned, of course, you have to know that you're not going to be mentioned by everyone, and it's not like going to give you like attention like through all of these parts, but you can make this information more accessible and especially knowing who you're talking to, because if I want to know specifics about something, obviously I'm going to expect information for a certain blog that has it as well. So I mean, it's just how it changes. I mean, I'm not going to get into much detail about this, but I mean, this is another thing to remember at this
Yes.
moment.
I think this is an interesting question as well. It says, does it matter how old the blog is? Like one from a year ago, does it still read it? This is a great question. Yes, it does. Yes, they do read it. And not only that,
Yeah,
but if you have seen that blog show up in an LLM, then that's great. They already know that blog, and you can update it, and you'll probably get some new traffic from it. I've updated content on the Wix blog, sorry, on the AI Search Lab, and that is on a Wix system, and I've seen that reflected in ChatGPT within a half an hour. Gemini wasn't sure what was going on yet, but I made the update and then I asked the question on ChatGPT and they cited the things that I'd put in that article within 30 minutes.
yeah,
So yeah, absolutely, and it's a really good way to maximize your time because Google already knows it. If ChatGPT already knows it, even if it's even older, that's good because the training data for some of these tools was like to 2022. So if it's before 2022, then they've probably already crawled and they probably already know that website or that web page. So that's super useful. Um, what can we do? So there's another question, and we're gonna have to wrap it up because I've got to let Tiago go.
I can say a little more. I can say a little more.
Okay,
It's
okay.
fine. I can help with some other questions. This is very engaging. Thanks everyone for being here. By the way, it's a real pleasure as well. So yeah, let's keep on some more questions.
Okay, great. Okay, so here's our next one. So what can be done? What changes or actionable steps are needed on websites? Or is it really just getting more mentions, being on more sites, having more authentic presence across the sites, other sites? Do you want to start? Shall I start?
Uh, Start, please.
Okay,
I have to develop this one. So
okay. So what things can be done? Okay, so I think it depends on where you're starting from. So if you have not done any SEO, then you should definitely start with SEO, right? Because the LLMs will connect with they use search data to ground their responses. So if you haven't done any SEO, don't think that you can just skip ahead and not do the SEO. So do the SEO. And that's, we talked about meta descriptions being useful for Wix websites and how the setting up the SEO setup checklist. There's lots of things in the SEO setup checklist, for instance, that work in your favor. So you can connect to Google Search Console. You can connect to Bing in the Wix SEO setup checklist, and that also helps with ChatGPT because ChatGPT also uses Bing as part of their grounding, and it also connects to Index Now. And you can see those sorts of things as well. So absolutely do your SEO. And then you're going to need to look at what your digital footprint looks like. On the SEO Hub, we have a tool. I can find the link to it. I'll pass it over to Tiago in a minute, but it's worth having a look at what it knows about you. So ask it about your brand. Ask it questions about, what do you know about this brand? What are the USPs of this brand? what are the values of this brand, that sort of thing, and that will give you some information, and then based on that, you can even say, this is wrong. How can I fix it? So you can ask it for recommendations, and they'll say, oh, maybe you should reach out to this website, or maybe you should do that. I have another article that talks about GEO that gets into a lot more of the details of it as well, and I'll post both of those links there, and I'll pass it over to Tiago.
Yes. Just another comment that I want to put on this as well. I mean, because I just want to like come back to our article, like into our report that we have it here. So, but which is going to be available for everyone, and also the recording is going to be available for everyone. So that was a question that was there. But then again, AI search is just like this fragmentation of what we understand for search, because I mean, like we could think in in a relatively straight way when we're talking about Google, but now speaking of so many like options that we have, and options that, yes, don't have maybe as much traffic as ChatGPT, for example, and now we are also like seeing Gemini coming a little closer to the race as well with ChatGPT as well, but it's just too many platforms to be ignored. Like, I mean, too much context that cannot like be oversaw. So it's just how important it is to think of like how does the internet understands me as well at this point. So yeah, I just wanted to comment on that and come back to us, because it's going to be so fragmented, and it's such a developing thing as well, because it's changing at a speed that we had never saw anything else before, in terms of market, in terms of usage, in terms of like the trends itself that it's going to go there. So it's also really interesting also to research this, because we're seeing so many different trends, and with every development and with every like new model as well, it's going to change. But I think the learning that we have from here is that SEO is still like the backbone of how we're going to be discovered. So we can call it either GEO, SEO, like, I mean, put the name that you feel more comfortable about it. But what's happening is that it's like a similar backbone to it, but we are seeing these changes that we just discussed here.
Yeah, lots to that. So with that, I think that's a good way to end the session. Thank you so much to Tiago. Thank you so much for that. Do you know what, Noah? We will make an article for you on that, on FAQ. There's lots of reasons why FAQ is valuable. It has to do with chunky content. The TLDR is, sure, make an FAQ page. That's the TLDR I would say on that. But there's lots of other reasons why you can get into that. But yes, thank you all so much. As I said, we have an article that is live on the AI Search Lab right now, with some great insights from Tiago, and some great insights from Statista, and we've got that information from the Wix study as well. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Good day to you.
Thanks, everyone.